Let me see.
And yep, we're recording now, so you're in good shape.
Okay. Well, I'm like, I lost you, so we'll just figure that out. Okay, so let me start with the beginning here. So functional living or getting it together, this is both just a way to just do some introduction to some things that can just make life a little bit more fluid, be a little bit more organized with just a little bit of effort. So a lot of things that I'll be going over today is just like why should we know who we are and what we want? Working on a personal mission statement, working on goal setting, identifying our values and our purpose, talking about what is the golden circle and how habits can have a big influence over what our life looks like. Talking about what is the circle of control and what does it mean for a comfort zone and having a growth mindset, and then how defining goals with SMART goals and having an action plan can give us some of that direction we're looking for. And then time management, I think, is something that everyone, no matter what your background is and where you're at in life, time management can continue to support with having a life that's just a little bit calmer and a little bit more structured and helps you get a little bit more of what you're looking for. And just the concept of that life is a practice, success is never a straight line. And then at the end, just talking over some resources and just a bit about low moments because things are not always a straight path, right? So with that, some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, others make it happen. And so this difference between um, that concept of having that dream and getting to the execution of things, right? And so trying to be the one that gets to the action phase and starts fulfilling the things that we want in our lives. And so then when we're trying to figure out like what this is all for and how does it support us, like why is this important and why should I do it? So one of the things I'll talk about Simon Sinek quite a bit in this presentation. He does a lot of speaking on a lot of these topics, but he says that working hard for something we don't care about is called stress, and then working hard for something that we love is called passion. It's all about in the way we experience it, right? We're all willing to work hard for something we're passionate about, but we don't want to just work endlessly for something that just continuing to drain us. So then here's just the short clip. I have short clips throughout the presentation. And so then here's him just kind of talking about the difference between something you're excited about and something you're not excited about.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words,
I talk about it all the time. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. And I'm tired of listening to CEOs saying, we only hire passionate people. What, you don't even know what that means. How do you know that they're passionate for interviewing and not passionate for working? You know, every person on the planet has passion, right? We just don't all have passion for the same things. Give me something to believe in. Give me something to believe in. Give me the opportunity to contribute to something. Allow me to make mistakes and try again. And you'll have passion up the wazoo. But Noah only has passion in one of his jobs. He has stress in the other one of his jobs. Same guy, different leadership.
Yeah, that rings.
How'd that sound come through?
Not very good. Caitlin said that she couldn't hear it very good.
Okay, let me.
I talk about it all the time. Working hard for something we don't care
Much
about
better?
is called stress.
Yes.
Working hard for something we love is called passion. And I'm tired of listening to CEOs saying, we only hire passionate people. What, you don't even know what that means. How do you know that they're passionate for interviewing and not passionate for working? You know, every person on the planet has passion, right? We just don't all have passion for the same things. Give me something to believe in. Give me something to believe in. Give me the opportunity to contribute to something. Allow me to make mistakes and try again. And you'll have passion up the wazoo. But Noah only has passion in one of his jobs. He has stress in the other one of his jobs. Same guy, different leadership.
Yeah, that rings.
Okay, and Caitlin, thank you for letting us know that we need to do something different with the sound. That feedback is really helpful. Let me see. How far? Okay. So then, having watched that, it's just like, so the goal is like to discover who you are and to know yourself, to discover and to have purpose, to foster those quality relationships, to create a life that you love and that you're proud of, and discover your dreams and how to achieve them. And so then moving into like what do we start with that? So talking about a personal mission statement, creating and integrating an empowering personal mission statement was one of the most important investments we can make because it really starts to explore that values and that purpose that I've mentioned before and how to tie that together into our goals and then what that looks like with action. So there is a video here I'm going to show off of Indeed. And then I've also got a couple of links here for a website that will basically like you just kind of input information in. At the end, it generates this really nice and laid out mission statement. And then if you like to work on pen and paper, I have a link for that as well. So here's the video from Indeed. Why? See if it's going to, I have to verify I'm a human. Let me see. Oh, hold on a second. Let me pull this over. Oh, here it is. Okay. I just didn't want to make everybody dizzy by. Mhm.
We appreciate that.
Okay. So it was way down here. Looks like they added like, here we go.
Create a personal mission statement that guides your actions and makes your introductions memorable. A personal mission statement defines who you are, the values you hold, and how you measure success. It can be used to focus, make decisions, and guide you through your professional and personal life. Let's walk through the steps needed to write a personal mission statement. Step number 1 will help you identify the components of your personal mission statement by writing down what is most important to you. Think about who you are and who you want to be. What are you passionate about? What or whom do you value? What are your aspirations? Remember, you can focus on professional and personal elements. Second, talk with friends, peers, mentors, and loved ones to ask what they consider to be your strengths. Consider your exceptional attributes, how you want others to perceive you, and adjectives to describe yourself. Third, identify your legacy. Ask yourself how you want to impact the world around you. What is your purpose? What motivates you? What qualities, talents, or abilities do you have to offer? Finally, use a template to create a clear and concise personal mission statement. Something like I will action for audience by skills to desired result. For example, a pastry chef's personal mission statement may be I will make innovative artistic bakes for everyday customers so everyone can experience the joy of beautiful cooking. A personal mission statement focused on a holistic approach to life may read, to be a source of hope by offering humility, optimism, and support to everyone I meet. Personal mission statements don't have to be lengthy or complicated. A good example of this is, to be kind to others and myself. You can use your personal mission statement in your professional life with career decisions and when deciding to take on new projects. It can also be used during your job search, in your resume and cover letter, and during interviews. If you found this video helpful, we've got more career tips, company reviews, and job opportunities on Indeed.com.
Okay, so that's just a quick overview and simple steps as far as what a personal mission statement can look like. It just kind of lays things out a bit more clear so you know where you're headed. And like I said, you can also use a website to do it. Franklin Covey has a lot of great content. And so then it gives you an option to do your personal mission statement. And then you start with your first and last name and it walks you through these steps and it generates questions for you to answer. And then it pulls it all together in this nicely laid out format for you. And then also I've got this link for people who just like want to do pen and paper for crafting your personal mission statement, letting you go over some of your core values, coming up with those draft statements to where you get a finalized version at the end. Okay, so then going over some of those, just like some of the questions they're asking, like, you know, like what would your friends say about you? Or, you know, what is it that you want to be known for, you know, at the end of your life? And just trying to help identify some of those strengths and those values and define what you want to be and what you want to do. And when you identify the influential people in your life, you can start to figure out what is it about this person that really influences me or that really draws me to them? Like, what is it that they embody that I really value and would like to bring into my life for myself? And then just defining what it means to perhaps be a friend, an employee, a student, a sibling, perhaps, or a son or daughter. And then what does that mean in your daily life? And then coming up with that personal mission statement and what you have in the end is a final product. And just know that that's a living document and something that can change as you change, because we all grow and we all find different directions for ourselves as we have new experiences. So then with the goal setting, discovering your values and purpose and what do you want and why and who do you want to be and how are you going to get there? You know, looking at a goal without a deadline, that's more like just your dream. When you add a deadline to it, it becomes an objective. It's a part of a plan, it becomes intention. And when you add consistent action is where you get that success. And when you add personal, meaningful goals to it, that's where it starts feeling fulfilling and it just adds a whole other layer to your life. So this is a very long list of values. I do like it because it's kind of like a brainstorming session and like it may not be words that you just come up with if you just had to pull words from your head. Like you're like, what are your values? But then having these in front of you gives you some things to consider as far as like, I think one of the funnest ones I've had people select is wonder. And they're like, that's not something I would have come up with on my own, but they're like, it really does embody a lot of the things that I'm looking for in life and that energy and spirit of life that I'm trying to bring in. And so that may be helpful to have a long list. It may not be helpful to have such a long list. There's lots of lists out there. So then once we identify what our values are, sometimes it can be helpful to figure out where did they come from. And so that's what this document is for, as far as like, is it ones that society, are you a part of a society that has those values? Is it your friends, your family, or are these values that are unique to you for whatever reason? But sometimes just knowing where they come from can help us to feel more certain and more sure of the values that are truly important to us. And we have done that critical thinking and objectiveness when we're looking at the values that are really important to the life you want to live. And then when you're trying to take those concepts and apply them, this is a worksheet that can be helpful as far as taking those values from being a concept to behavior. And so then there's some questions here that can answer to try and support that. Like what are some behaviors that would embody that value? What are some behaviors that you may do that are outside of that value? And then what's an example of the time when you were fully living in that value? And then some of the questions on the other side is like, what's an early warning indicator that you're living outside those values and how can you check yourself daily? And so it's just some good kind of like some black and white, some yes and no questions to really identify the direction that you're heading. So here's gonna be a video about the golden circle. Simon Sinek again, he talks about how a lot of times we approach things with what we're doing. A lot of you maybe, what are you doing? I'm going to school and I'm doing classes online or I'm doing classes in person. And it's like, why? Because I want a degree and I want to make more money or I want to support my family, whatever that is. But then he talks about starting with your why and working that way out and how it hits in a completely different place. So we'll watch this real quick.
Grammarly now uses AI to help you write, not just revise. Type a prompt and generate.
I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. When we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. Sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right, because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart, or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will anybody How will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal?
They don't believe how toxic this is.
So I really like what Simon Sinek says, and just I think it helps to kind of like walk that path that I've been talking about as we've been in this presentation. Because when you start with your purpose, then you figure out how you're going to achieve your goals and what steps you need to take it. You know, with my example earlier of going to school, if we flip it and we start with our why, my why is to do better for my family or to earn more money. And then how, like being enrolled at DMAC and being in online classes, and what it'd be like, it's the attending classes every day and logging in and making sure I get my homework done on time. But when we start with the why, when it aligns with our values and what it is that we're working towards, it hits in a different spot. And it becomes more connected to us. So then if we take kind of that concept and we can move into Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, this was written by Stephen Covey in the 80s. And he talks about these 7 habits and it's like what, 300-page book that gives a lot of research and supporting information as to why he included these in his book. But the first one is to be proactive, trying to anticipate what you can see coming and what needs to be worked on so that things can go smoothly. Beginning with the end in mind, identifying what's your goal. If you're going through all of these steps and you're working towards these things that are taking up your time and energy, like what is it that you're going to get out of it in the end? And then putting first things first and making sure that the value goal related activities are prioritized. There's a lot of times where it just, in the moment, it may seem easier to say yes to things or to people rather than to say no, but it is really important to make sure that you're giving the time that you need to the things that are important to you and the things that are getting you to where you want to be, and then figuring out what you're going to have to say no to in order to get the important things done. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, I believe. Um, the other thing too is when you're communicating, make sure that you're first seeking to understand rather than being understood. Because when we listen, rather than waiting for someone to stop talking or waiting for our opportunity to talk, it really allows for more open communication and more understanding. Hopefully reduce defenses and allows for more constructive conversation. And then that concept of synergy, where one person can do quite a bit of work on their own, but when they add another person, not only does their work double, but one and one can actually make three. If you've ever tackled a project, even at home, and you've worked on something like maybe you're cleaning out a garage or something like that, and it's easy to take breaks and to like do something different. But when someone else keeps working while you're wanting to take a break, you don't just get the work done in half the time. You can actually get the work done even faster than that because you're both being consistent and you're both working together and you're helping each other out. Sharpening the saw. This is about rejuvenation. This is about rest. This is about relaxation. We are, as much as we have so many things going on all at the same time, and it just feels like we're go, go, go all the time. And it feels like we're just sprinting towards each deadline, each goal. But overall, big picture, this is a marathon. And so we do have to figure out how to pace ourselves. We do have to figure out where to take breaks. We have to figure out where to allow things to be a little bit lighter so that when the heavier times, the heavier seasons where we have to work harder, we have the energy to actually do that, because we don't just always have endless reserves unless we put something in the reserves to pull from. So, and that's where it's the continue to improve, to continue to grow, to continue to practice balance, and to allow yourself to rest at times. So then another concept that's important is the circle of control. And you may or may not have heard of this one. So essentially in the core where we have the circle of control here, like such as here in the middle, it's like these are the things that we can directly control and impact through our thoughts, words, and actions. What we control is ourselves. We can control how we act, what our mood is, how hard we work, the thoughts that we have, and to also the disclaimer that for those who like may have mental health issues, like need additional support, or maybe like some of those things like have intrusive thoughts. There's some things to have to work around too. And ultimately, a person making sure that they're reaching out for the resources and supports to support the healthiest version of themselves in that process. But then outside of ourselves is a circle of influence. And sometimes that's where we can get confused with what we can control, because we have relationships with people where we know that we can have influence over them. We can ask them to help us with things, or maybe depending on our mood or how we're behaving, they may respond to us in a completely different way. And so then there's other things too, such as other people's thoughts, our commitments, where you work, who you vote for. Those are things that you can influence the outcome on things, right? But not necessarily control. And then we have the circle of concern, which is that wider range of things. It's like your global warming, and it's the, natural disasters that happen. It's the government happening on a national scale, but breaking it down, you may be able to find things that you can control on a smaller level, but some of those bigger things that are going on that may concern you, but you don't have a direct influence or a direct influence on the big picture of things. And so just keeping those things in mind when we focus on what's in our control, rather than the things that are in our influence and our concern that we can't have as much of a direct impact on, we focus on what's in our control, we actually do start to feel more empowered. And as we focus on what we have the capacity for and how we show up in our relationships and how we show up with our work, our circle of control can actually expand. Because those around us who see how we're showing up may give us more responsibility, may give us more trust, and other things too that allow that control to expand. So we do have more control and more influence than we would have before, depending on how we show up with things. So we also have the comfort zone. You can see like this little spot here, like this is your comfort zone. And it's like, and this is where everything else happens, in our comfort zone. That's where we feel safe, where we feel in control. We get outside of that comfort zone and we start finding things we don't know because we haven't done them before. They're all brand new, and we may or may not know somebody who has done the same thing, or maybe what we're doing really hasn't been done before. And so then it may be easier to find excuses or be affected by other people's opinions or have lack of confidence. And then, as you keep trying to move forward and keep trying to work towards your goals, you get into that learning zone where you do have to deal with the frustration of taking on new content and acquiring new skills and trying to expand what that comfort zone is for you. Because, like at one point you didn't walk, you didn't ride a bike, like you didn't have the language skills that you do now. But as you kept pushing yourself and kept doing new things, your expansion of what your comfort zone is grew exponentially, right? And then we also get to that place of that comfort zones where you start, or excuse me, that growth zone where you start finding your purpose and setting new goals and conquering objectives. And it's just kind of like you're just like full steam ahead and just taking on all the new things as you start adopting this mindset that allows you to just continue to grow and learn and deal with frustrations and figure out how to ask for help and all those things. Um, and so then a lot that goes with it is having that growth mindset versus that fixed mindset, as we start to embrace constructive feedback, because as we're doing new things, we can't do it right the first time. And so anybody who can give us some advice on how to do better the next go around, that's seen as a positive rather than a criticism. Learning to grow from our failures, because the more you set out to achieve, the more you find out what you couldn't do right the first time. And so then being able to take that as a learning opportunity rather than defeat or failure. Be like, okay, so now that I've done this once, I feel a lot more confident that I can be more successful the next go around, right? And then also believing that talent is ever improving, that this is something you continue to grow and foster, versus not being able to accept that failure or mistakes, or believing that um not being able to focus on proving, or how do I say that? That you are more focused on proving yourself more than focusing on your goal itself, right? So then just a difference as far as how you approach a situation. And over here with this picture, like the weight of all of these failures versus using the failures to continue to be building stones to continue to get towards where you want to go. And so then once you have the mindset, you can start to do some goal exploration in areas of your social, career, physical, family, personality, and other areas of your life, and coming up with 1 month goals, 1 year goals, and 5 year goals, and they can build on themselves because what you do now in this week and this month continue to be a building foundation for what you want to do between this next year and what you want, to happen in the next 5 years. It all just continues to build on itself, and you can be more focused with that if you sit down and spend some time. Like, this takes time. This takes energy. I totally understand that. And I have found that to have more of a direction, to have more of a sense of things, while it takes some beginning effort, some front work, I feel like it pays off dividends as you start to actually invest your time and energy in the processes to get somewhere. And so then here's a few pages of what the goal exploration worksheets look like as you start to focus on other areas of your life and identifying what those different goals over the different time frames are. And then you can start to put it into an action plan, as far as like deciding how you're going to measure your success and what that'll look like. So you actually know when you've achieved it. And then coming up with the obstacles that come up along the way. I think one of the most important things when you set out to achieve a goal is understanding what can get in the way. Because a lot of times when we don't see the barrier coming, we can feel a lot more setback, a lot more failure, a lot more frustration. But if we knew to anticipate the things that we're going to get in our way, then we're more prepared to figure out how to work around them and how to overcome them than to accept that maybe we need to stop pursuing the goal. But it's like, nope, I knew this was going to be hard. I knew I was going to have to do these things. I knew life and school and all the things were going to conflict at different times. I just need to, come up with a new strategy or try something different. Because it can be really difficult to be in college and trying to work and have friends and family and take care of yourself and do all the things. There's a lot of different things in your life that are pulling you in different directions. And so then figuring out how to anticipate those conflicts can be helpful. One of the things time management, I mentioned this at the beginning. This was just kind of like one of the things I really love supporting. This is called the Eisenhower Matrix. And in life, when we have crisis, we have things that would fall into this quadrant 1, urgent and important. Ultimately, what we want to do, this is like the planning, this is the proactive, this is the phase of where we have things anticipated. And so this is our not urgent and important quadrant. This is taking care of our health. This is doing homework other than the night that it's due. This is making sure that when you get to a quarter tank, you put gas in your car. It's making sure that knowing that you have a trip coming up, you start maybe working on a list of things that you need to do before the trip happens. That's like the not urgent because you're working on things ahead of time, but it's still important, right? Getting to work on time and making sure you get all your hours in. Then we have quadrant 3, which is your urgent but not important. I kind of see this as things that are kind of like working on other people's goals or things that could be done more efficiently. The examples that they give here is that, like, some email, phone calls, meetings. Like I said, like if other people are asking you to do things to help them out, I think that's great. I think it's great. Like, just does it fit in with your schedule? Do you have the time to do it? And is there capacity for it? Like, because sometimes when we start saying yes in areas like that too much, then we start not being able to work on our goals and we end up not having any time and energy left for everything else. And then the last one is that quadrant 4, where we're in this like not urgent, not important. So this is kind of like the things that you may enjoy doing, but don't really go towards any of your relationships or any of your goals that you have. While There's nothing wrong with being on social media. There's nothing wrong with being on video games. There's nothing wrong with like lounging around the house. But if those things, if you're spending so much time on them that they're starting to impact the other areas of your life that need addressed, that's when that area starts to become more of an issue where it's not urgent, it's not important. And so when you focus on your quadrant 2, the things that are important, and you plan it out, actually in the end, you may have more time to do the things that are not important and not urgent, but like, or maybe do it in a way that's less guilt, or maybe it doesn't impact things the same way. And so some of the things that I encourage people to do when they're working on their time management is to each week plan out your schedule, look at your roles and responsibilities. What are some things that you need to do for self-care? You know, do you need to figure out like sleep, hygiene, meals, traveling? You're trying to figure out some of those logistics things. But then also as you planned out your week and you reflect back on it, was it a week that worked out well for you? Was it balanced? Like, were there days that were just too heavy, and is there a way to restructure those? And so a lot of times when we do projects like this, it's not necessarily what you do, it's how you do it. Endlessly, you could fill out a calendar, a time management calendar each week and not gain anything from it if you're not putting any time into it and you're not reflecting on it. But if you're really focusing on how can I use this as a tool to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and I'm taking care of the things that are important to me, and you spend some time reflecting on it, you really can gain a lot from this tool and using it on a consistent basis. And then it gets to a point where you've been doing it long enough that you almost start being able to just do it in your head without having to write everything out. So there's that. Then, so this is like an example of what I would say someone could do with a weekly calendar. You can see the examples over here as far as how they have things like mapped out, as far as where they're taking care of themselves, where they're taking care of their assignments, where they're spending time with their relationships. And then the blank calendar on the left that just like gives you an opportunity to have a visual of what your calendar is, because a lot of people will have to-do lists, but to really see it mapped out on something like this where the time is actually taken up by the activity really just gives a different visual for how your week's going to look. Okay, so then if we're living our values and practicing who we want to be today, here's a video with Michelle Obama.
The other thing I tell young people is life is practice, you know. You're practicing, and I tell my girls this every day, you are practicing who you are going to be. So if you're getting up late and you're trifling and you're not getting your homework done, that's what you're practicing. That doesn't just go away, you know. And so you have to start practicing who you want to be. Do you want to be dependable? Then you have to be dependable. Mm-hmm. If you want people to trust you, then you have to be trustworthy. Yeah. So practice who you want to be every single day. And that's what I think kids need to do who don't have mentors in their lives. Find that role model somewhere out there. Even if you read it in a book, you know, find that inspiration. The other thing.
So then what I like about that is like, because a lot of times we think that if we have this thing, then we'll be happy. If we have this thing, and then we'll be fulfilled. If we have this thing, then we'll be successful. But I like this idea of like, what can you incorporate now into your day-to-day life that will get to you towards that thing? Like, even if you don't feel those things, what are the actions? What are the habits? What are the activities that you can be doing that get you to the life that you want someday? And building that foundation like we've been talking about throughout this presentation. And so then here's another clip of Michelle Obama. And then I also have a clip of just a quote by James Clear. He wrote Atomic Habits, which has been a really helpful book for a lot of people as far as how to like make those daily changes and make those routine changes to see a difference in their lives. But the quote here says, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity.
Who are you going to be? And if you'll notice, I'm not asking what are you going to do, but who are you going to be? I'm asking you about how you plan to live your life every day. How are you going to respond when you don't get that job you had your heart set on? For all of you who are going to be teachers, what are you going to do if the students in your class next year just don't respond to your lessons? For all of you going into business, how will you react when your boss gives you a goal that feels way too high? See, these are the moments that define us. Not the day you get the promotion, not the day you win Teacher of the Year, but the times that force you to claw and scratch and fight just to get through the day. The moments when you get knocked down and you're wondering whether it's even worth it to get back up. See, those are the times when you've got to ask yourself, who am I going to be? And I want to be clear, this isn't just some vague platitude about building character. In recent years, we've actually been seeing a growing body of research that shows that skills like resilience and conscientiousness can be just as important to your success as your test scores or even your IQ. For instance, West Point cadets who scored high on things like grit and determination were more likely to complete basic training than those who ranked high on things like class rank, SAT scores, and physical fitness. So what we're seeing is that if you're willing to dig deep, if you're willing to pick yourself up when you fall, if you're willing to work and work until your weaknesses become your strengths, then you'll develop a set of skills that you can mold and apply to any situation you encounter, any job you might have, any crisis you might confront. But you got to make that choice. Who are you going to be? So graduates, think about how this will apply to your own lives in the future. As you move on, you're going to come across all kinds of people from all different places and faiths and walks of life. And you can choose to pass them by without a word, or you can choose to reach out to them, no matter who they are or where they come from or what ideas they might have, embracing the diversity of experience and opinion that surrounds us everywhere we go. So I encourage you all, seek it out. Don't just spend time with people your own age. You would be amazed at the wisdom they have to offer. If you're a Democrat, spend some time talking to a Republican. And if you're a Republican, have a chat with a Democrat. Maybe you'll find some common ground, maybe you won't. But if you honestly engage with an open mind and an open heart, I guarantee you will learn something. And goodness knows, we need more of that. Because we know what happens when we only talk to people who think like we do. We just get more stuck in our ways. You can get past all that. You've got the freedom of an open mind. And thanks to today's technology, you're connected to each other and to the world like never before. So you can either choose to use those opportunities to continue fighting the fights that we've been locked in for decades, or you can choose to reject those old divisions and embrace folks with a different point of view. And if you do that, the latter, who knows where it might take you? And let me just share just a little secret before I end. As someone who has hired and managed hundreds of young people over the course of my career, the answers to those questions, believe me, are far more important than you can ever imagine. Whether it was during my time as a lawyer, as an administrator, as a university, a nonprofit manager, even now as First Lady, I have never once asked someone I was interviewing to explain a test score or a grade in a class. Never. I have never once made a hire just because someone went to an Ivy League school instead of a state school. Never. What I have looked for is what kind of person you are. Are you a hard worker? Are you reliable? Are you open to other viewpoints? Have you stepped outside of your own self-interest to serve others? Again and again, I have seen that those are the qualities that I want on my team, because those are the qualities that move our businesses and schools and our entire country forward. And just understand this, those are the qualities that you all already embody. They're the values you learned from your parents, from the communities you grew up in. They are the skills you developed here at EKU as you worked so hard to make it to this day. And today, more than ever before, that's what the world needs. We need more people like you. So after you've come this far, after all of the ups and downs, I hope that it is no longer a question of whether or not you can make it in this world, but how and where you're going to make your mark.
So one thing, I like this video because I feel like Michelle really highlights some of the things that I've been talking about so far. I really hear her embodying and really promoting that growth mindset of figuring out how you can build on your failures and how you can come back from setbacks and things like that. And also she focuses it a lot on how are you going to do things? How is that going to look? As far as when we look at Simon Sinek's golden circle, right? And then also she mentions like how to listen to understand rather than waiting to talk, as we talked earlier about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And she also really spoke about what you can do, what you have control over. Again, focusing on that circle of control that we've talked about earlier as well. So then a lot of times we think that success is just one step in front of the other, but honestly, it's messy. And a lot of times there's a lot of things we didn't see coming and life happens along the way. And so it is figuring out how to just keep going with the process, even though it looks different than we thought it would. Some of that is being able to recognize our feelings and recognize what it is that we need. Earlier I talked about that sharpening the saw and taking care of ourselves. If you're feeling dismayed, if you're feeling disappointed, if you're feeling drained, like what is it that you need to take care of yourself? Or if you're recognizing that maybe there's a class that you're really enjoying and so you just feel more excited, pay attention to that. Is that the area that you really need to be going into? And maybe different from what you thought that you wanted for a career for yourself. Be open to all of those experiences. So then like, how do you handle those ups and downs in life? So, like in addition to goals and plan, willpower and perseverance will only get you so far. You need to adapt and develop new skills as you work towards your goals. You need to find solutions when barriers get in the way. Lack of time, money, and or energy can hinder progress. Sometimes you need to unlearn those behaviors that served you at one point in your life, but now no longer work for you. Sometimes you need to heal from those past experiences so that you can keep moving forward. You have to work to maintain what you've done while still making progress. You need to find others who celebrate and accept you, who support you with your goals. You will be challenged by life to decide again and again if a goal is still worth it, if it still aligns with your values and the life that you want. Living by your values will help you to decide what is right for you. Some of the things that were helpful too and that our counseling department can support you with is working on mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotional regulation, those interpersonal effectiveness, how to communicate well, and then also how to ask for help. This is just a fun little video, just reminding that we can't always do it on our own. So I just like how they all came together and helped flip the turtle over. So then some of the things you can put into action, things we talked about today, is doing that weekly calendar, a weekly goal sheet, completing your personal mission statement, exploring your goals and values, developing new habits, reading books on the topic, setting goals to practice today. Small goals build to bigger ones. So we always start with small. Getting outside that comfort zone, maybe you find journaling, meditating, or self-reflection helpful. Any of this stuff I've talked about today, any of our DMAT counselors can help you with. It doesn't have to be for all the other things that we tend to think of counseling for. Counseling can help you be a better version of you. So there's a QR code to check out our information. Also, we've got community resources we could get you connected with. We can get you connected with DMAC resources, such as getting involved with student activities, our Trail Point facility, or also like utilizing the Academic Achievement Center in the library. And then just making sure that we're providing information for you guys that are of interest to you. Please know that here in the next week or two on Ankeny campus and on Urban campus on Wednesdays over the lunch hour, we're going to do a 7-session series that really breaks down a lot of these topics in addition to other ones as well, and gives you a chance to really practice some of the stuff, to have more of a conversation about it and to get more exposure to it. So make sure that you are going to be watching your emails as we're going to be sending out information in an RSVP form to sign up. We're also planning on having pizza, so that we need to know how many pizzas to order. So I hope to see you guys there. Some of the books I talked about today, 2 of them are being The Atomic Habits by James Clear, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, and then there's another book, Chew Grit by Angela Ducksworth, that can be helpful. There's the Calm app that's $8.99 a year for some of those meditation things. Student discount for Amazon. Headspace is another meditation app, and that's $10 a year. And that's kind of what I've got picked out for you guys to share with you. So I've hoped that you have found this information helpful. I'm sure there's a lot more we can get into it, and I'm more than happy to sit down with anybody and we can spend as much time as we need to get through some of this content. I think this stuff can really change what life is like for a lot of people and give them a lot more practical skills to put into action. So with that, I'm going to stop my share. And then I don't know, do we have any questions or anything? That everything okay?
Yeah, so so Caitlin says, thank you for taking time to go through all this information. Yes, and that's what I was going to tell you. Caitlin had already requested that you send some slides and some resources. So I have her email, but if there's anybody else out there that wants information about some of these things, please put that in the chat. Shannon, I have to say thank you. You know, I'm the counselor here at Carroll. I should have introduced myself, I guess. But there were some things that you said that really stuck to me, and I just wanted to add to it. I love the picture of the fail being steps, because too many people, too many times we see them as bricks that create barriers in our lives instead of seeing them as steps to that better person for me to be. So I absolutely love that you put that. And I love that you talked about setting goals, because I think a lot of us just don't take time to you know, think about what I really want. Where is it I really am going? We just kind of go through life and we forget to think about, you know, what is it I really intend? What is my why? And so I absolutely love that. So yeah, thank you. It was a very thought-provoking for me as well. Okay, I see Amber here has an email too, and I'm gonna get that added to my list.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Amber.
Yeah. And Rebecca, did you guys have any things from your group that you wanted to add or that you have questions about?
They might be. Class might have gotten done at 11:05.
Yeah, so they're probably done already. Okay, fantastic.
I just ran a little bit long on this one.
No, you're good. That was perfect. Okay, I'm going to stop our recording.